So the next topic of our tutorial is related to the classes in Python, which is inheritance. So we're going to keep it inside of this example here, but we're going to also get rid of some of these printings and also this C here. So generally inheritance is when you want to get all of the variables and methods inside of this class and define another new class with the properties and values of this class here, player. So for example, here I want to write class player2, player2 here, and then here I haven't written anything, so in this one you didn't write anything. So this one is we're going to inherit from this other function. So in general, the function, the class that inherits from another class is called a child class, and the class that is being inherited from, which is player, is the parent class. So the child class inherits from the parent class, and inside of this child class we can use the init function, but once we write the init function def underline init, and here if I write, for example, name, height, the problem here is that it will erase all of the variables inside the parent class. So in order to keep all of the variables of the parent class, you can here use player dot, and then you can write init underline, and then inside of the parentheses we have self dot name height and team here. So here we will get exactly the same parameters, and here player should be written with capital letters. Okay, there we go. And also here you can write team as well in order to fix this. So there we go. We will have again the same variables and parameters inside of this class. Also, if you want to have the function as well, you can write super init to be able to use this class function as well. So if you write super init, you will gain access to all of the methods and properties of the parent class. Also, if you write nothing, and so let me comment these two lines here, and if you write nothing and just write pass here, it will inherit everything from this parent class. So what is the benefit of using the super and def? I will explain it later in this part of the tutorial, but let me first check the child class. So I can write c1 equals player2, and here I can write another player. So for example, this player's name could be Wayne Rooney. So Wayne Rooney, and then he has a height of, I don't know, maybe for example 174, and his team is Manchester United. United. Okay, so here if I write C1 dot new function parentheses, also let's print this out, print this out. But because we have a print here, we do not need any print. So let us forget the print here, save the code and rerun it. Wayne Rooney was a player of Manchester United and his height is 174. So as you can see, this child class here inherited from the parent class, and by creating an object from the child class, which is player 2, we can have the function of the parent class and run it. And here, as you can see, we have printed out Wayne Rooney was the player of Manchester United and his height is 174. You can also do the addition for the height, for the team, and even for the name, which is not necessary. So here we want to continue with the def init inside of the child class. Also, we want to use the super. So here with super init, we do not need self, but with the player.init, we need the self. So make sure you notice this one. So here, imagine that in this second class, we want to have and before I want to explain why we use the inheritance. Before I want to do this, I want to explain why we use inheritance. So here we have the second class. Why do we use it? Why don't we use the first class in the first place? So imagine that you are a group of developers and the first developer has developed this kind of class, but he or she has forgotten a kind of a variable inside of this class. But for some reason, for not mixing up the class, the code, or not ruining the code, or not manipulating or not editing it, you want to keep the very original class, which is written by another developer, because you might get into some kind of problem, or you might not be familiar with the kind of intention the other developer had in mind, and then you ruin everything, and the other developer comes along and says that, for example, I forgot what I written and you ruined my function, my class here. So in order to prevent that from happening, you use the inheritance. With the inheritance, you get the very same class that the other developer has developed up to now, but here, for example, you get a player 2 and you want to add a new variable. For example, you want to add the weight as well. So you don't ruin this first class, which is the parent class, and you don't write weight here. This is totally wrong, because once you do this, once you write weight, you add your own variable, you might unintentionally ruin the code that somebody else has developed up to now. Or maybe someday in the future we will understand that we do not need weights, and this is going to ruin everything. This is going to ruin every part of the code that we have developed up to now, which is a very long code. So here, in order to prevent that from happening, we use the inheritance. So we declare the new classes. We inherit from another class that the previous developer has developed up to then, and then you use the super.init, use the parent name class.init, which is here player.init, and here, for example, we want to add weight. So if you want to do that, you need to also add this weight to the init function here at the top, and inside of this you can write self.weight weight equals, also notice that we need parentheses here for the super.init, and here we can write weight. So there we go. And we do not need weight for here in the super init, but we need it inside of the def init. So here I think we need self as well. Now that's not the case, so we do not need it. Also, the problem here with the indentation is that we shouldn't have a space after super.init. We're just here importing everything from the other class, such as the methods and properties, but def init is the function that we've got here, and we've used super init in order to get all of the methods and properties from the previous or parent class. So here self.weight equals weight, and here in the player2 class we can also add another property, which is the weight. And I'm not sure for the weight of Wayne Rooney. I'm not really sure. He's got very fat and his team is not Manchester United, but I can write 80, for example. And even I'm never sure whether he's ever been 80 or not, but anyway. And so here the function is not going to tell us anything about his weight, because it's printing out the function inside of the parent class, which is player. But if I write c1.weight here, and so we need to also print this out, print parentheses, and also close the parentheses, save the code and run it. So here, as you can see, we've got another property for this new player2 class, which didn't used to exist for the parent class. So here, if I define c equals the very same thing except the weight, so here we're going to probably face a conflict. This c by itself is not going to accept 80 because it doesn't have the fourth variable. So here, if I write c1.weight without even printing it, actually c.weight without even printing it, so we will face an error. Let's see. As you can see here, the error says init function takes 4 positional arguments, but 5 were given. So we have self, we have name, we have height, team, and weight. 5 are given, but here it is 4. So self is the first one of the variables, name second, height third, and team is the fourth. We don't have any fifth variable, which is the weight, but we've given it. So here the parent class doesn't have that variable, but here for the child class, which has inherited from the parent class, we have defined a new variable, and we can even use it here. We can even call it. So it's awesome. Here we've learned how to inherit from a function, and how the inheritance works, and why we're using inheritance for. It is very important. Any team that you're going to join and develop Python, you really need to know what is inheritance, not object orientation, because with the inheritance you will be able to do a lot of things. You will be able to code with a team of other developers and be a pro. And also notice that you can also add a function for this new class here. So I'm going to call it function 2 because we don't want it to be the first function. So here, new function 2, and you can add also the weight as well. So here let me change and to comma. And then here at the end, and his weight is, close the quotation mark, this is extra, and okay, self dot weight, and there we go. So we've printed out everything we wanted. You can also return the weight, and we can run c1 dot new function 2, which is the result of the child class, not the parent class. The new function was inside the parent class, and we've managed to read from it. Here with the child class, we have a new method, c1.newFunction2, so we can run it, and here probably we have a problem in the line 27. Let's see what it is. Self.weight here seems to be a problem with this one. Self.weight, okay, there shouldn't be a problem. Okay, we've got a very simple problem here because we don't have a plus after his height, plus, and we have other pluses as well. So let's see. Okay, there we go. Wayne Rooney was the player of Manchester United, and his height is 174. And for the second method, which was created inside of the child class, not in the parent class, Wayne Rooney was the player of Manchester United. His height is 174 and his weight is 80. So an 80 is also returned for after the function. There we go. So here we've learned all of the inheritance, and I hope it's been useful for you. And till the next part, goodbye.